Baseball, d1baseball.com. Be sure to download the app, follow them on Twitter, follow Kendall, follow Aaron, all those guys, because that is coverage that you can't get anywhere else. Kendall, appreciate, as always, you joining us on the Farm Bureau phone line. Let's just jump right in with Mississippi State. And for all the jokes, you know all the jokes, are we going to host, are we going to host? It's been like this decade-long joke. We actually had a conversation about this earlier today. Not in the joking sense so much, but there's a finite number of games that you can lose in non-conference. And still, when you start adding things up at the end of the year, being in the hosting conversation. Haydad pointed out that last year Mississippi State lost 3 non-conference games. And then they went 20-10 in the league, and they lost 2 in the SEC tournament. So there were 15 total losses, but only 3 of them were non-conference losses. That was good enough to be the number 7 seed overall in the tournament. This year they got 4 losses, and they got a really difficult stretch of games coming up. What's the margin for error for Mississippi State for a program whose standard is hosting in the postseason?
Well, I mean, honestly, I'm not worried about the hosting just yet. I mean, I think when you look at the non-conference schedule, obviously – they need to have a good weekend. I mean, if they lost the series, they're going to have to make it up somewhere, right, down the road. But, I mean, let's just say they put all the pieces together in SEC play and won 18 to 20 SEC games, they're probably hosting, like, no matter what they do the rest of the non-conference, the rest of the pre-conference schedule. So I wouldn't kind of press the panic button on that just yet. But I think the biggest thing, if you're Mississippi State, like, you just want to see some consistency. I mean, you lose a game in Northern Kentucky, that's totally inexcusable. That's a bad baseball team. They're probably going to finish near the bottom of their league. So that's just a bad loss. But, I mean, on the flip side, they came back the last 2 days, granted the competition, but they came back the last 2 days. Preston Johnson threw really well. Cade Smith threw really well. So, I mean, you saw glimpses of them kind of being the team of old, but they're still just not playing great baseball in general. It's easy to call it a national championship hangover, but at some point you get to, like, the Tulane series, and then the series after that, and, like, you can no longer call it a hangover. Like, maybe this team just isn't that great. So I'm not to that point yet, but I do think this weekend against Tulane's illuminating because Tulane, they're battle-tested. They went on the road, won a series from a Louisiana Tech team who has a lot of guys back. So they're going to go into this series thinking they not only can win it, they think they will win it.
Well, and it's this 6-game window that started right now, started last night, right? I mean, Southern Miss last night, and they lose that one 7-1. Now they got to go to Tulane and play 3. And then it's 2 against Texas Tech in the midweek down on the Mississippi Gulf Coast in Biloxi. I mean, this is a big, big, important stretch.
No, it really is. I mean, let's just say you lost 3 or 4 games in that stretch. I mean, you're looking at a situation now where you're probably going into conference play. You needing to make up a lot of ground. And so I think if you're Mississippi State, if you win the series this weekend, it kind of gives you a little bit of breathing room. You lose it, all of a sudden things start to get rather interesting from a hosting perspective. But, for now, like, if I'm a State fan, I'm not worried about hosting in first week of March. I'm worried about just getting this team kind of in a consistent
baseball
pattern. Yeah, playing like decent baseball. Like, I don't even feel like this team's played really decent baseball yet. They got a long way to go.
Sure. Well, and certainly it's a talented roster. Let's talk about the team that beat Mississippi State last night. Southern Miss. You told us beginning of the year that was a team that was like hanging right outside the preseason top 25. You needed to see more. And how important is that data point from last night for Southern Miss in terms of like overall resume and what you think of them as a team?
Well, for me, I mean, let's be honest here, and I'm not like banging on Southern Miss, but let's be honest here. Those kind of games are more important for Southern Miss, and that's not to take anything away of the job that they did on the mound last night. But for teams like that to be able to host, we just talked about the hosting situation. Let's say Southern Miss finishes in the top 2 in Conference USA. For teams like that to host, they've got to win some of these midweek games against these power conference teams. So I think for Southern Miss, that's a huge win. And I am not surprised at all to see them kind of get on a roll here early on from a pitching standpoint. I continue to think that Christian Ostrander is one of the best pitching coaches in college baseball. The track record speaks for itself. And, you look at Hurston Waldrop as a guy that, their weekend starter that's been up to 96, 97 with electric stuff. He's got, 18 strikeouts and 10 in the third innings. Hunter Riggins is off to a really nice start for them. So I think Southern Miss is for real. I mean, we had them in our next 10 outside of our top 25. And I think this is a team that can not only win that league, I think this is a team that could host a regional and play in a super.
And a big weekend for them as well as they go to Lafayette for a for a series with the Cajuns.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, we talk about these different kind of what I would call upper mid-major conferences, but you look at the Sun Belt with a team like Louisiana. Of course, they had that really heated series in Hattiesburg last year where the two teams almost came to blows. But you talk about teams needing to make up some ground. Louisiana goes to that Round Rock Classic, loses to Stanford and Arkansas. They go 0-3. All of a sudden, even this early in the season with Southern Miss at home, they kind of have to win that series to make the tournament without winning the conference tournament. If they lose that series this weekend, I mean, they're way behind the eight ball. So I think it's a big series for both teams. I do like Southern Miss in it. I saw the Cajuns last weekend, and I just think Southern Miss from a pitching standpoint is very much more advanced. The Cajuns have a long way to go pitching-wise.
98 strikeouts and 15 walks on the season for Southern Miss as a staff. Impressive on the mound so far.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they've been able to keep Christian Ostrander around there is incredible. I mean, that guy is a phenomenal coach. I'm surprised he hasn't gotten a really, really good head coaching job at some point.
All right, so Ole Miss has won by run rule in 5 of its 8 games. They have scored in double digits in 7 of their 8 games. They're undefeated and number 2 in the country. They are headed to UCF this weekend, a UCF team that has not given up more than 3 runs in any game so far this season. Which one of those 2 things changes this weekend?
I think UCF, I think kind of their success changes. I just think when you look at UCF coming into the season, I thought they were one of those teams that could surprise some people. I mean, I think the biggest thing for me that's been interesting about UCF is David Litchfield, who's been kind of a, no pun intended, linchpin in the back end of their bullpen. They've moved him to the starting rotation. And, last weekend, again, I think it was against Georgia Southern, he went 7 innings and gave up 1 run. So, Greg Loveladies kind of mixed some things around from a pitching standpoint. Litchfield's thrown really well for them in that front end role. And so I'll be very interested to see how a guy that's a converted closer does against that Ole Miss lineup. I just think Ole Miss is just a really good baseball team. I mean, that's the only way to put it, right? I mean, I just think they're a really good baseball team. They've gotten production from guys, up and down the lineup. Tim Elko with 2 knees already has 4 home runs. Then you look across the lineup, and guys like TJ McCants are off to a really nice start. So I think Ole Miss is a really good team. I get it. The Ole Miss jokes are going to come out because they're ranked number 2 in the country, but I think this is a really, really good baseball team.
And we've still got to learn more about their pitching, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, we'll learn more. I mean, I think when you look at this team overall, I mean, I'm very curious to see how Derek Diamond does moving forward. I mean, he was one of those guys, I've made this kind of anecdote, this point so many times, but I kind of go back to last year at Globe Life, and you could really make the argument that on that particular weekend, he was better than Gunnar Hoagland. So, he's obviously off to a nice start for them. John Gaddis is a guy that's, earned some rave reviews from some scouts I've talked to. They really like his stuff. So, so far so good. But they've got better competition ahead, and they will get tested against UCF. Alex Freeland for the Knights is a really talented, draft-eligible guy up the middle. He's kind of the guy that can kind of stir their drink, so to speak. So they're going to get tested down at UCF, and that's a tough place to play. When they have a big opponent in town, that place can get a little rowdy, especially there in the outfield.
All right. We'll look forward to that this weekend. Last thing, only about a minute and a half left. I'm assuming you're going to be in Houston this weekend. An incredible field at the Shriners, where you got Texas and you got Tennessee and you got Oklahoma and UCLA. LSU is there this weekend as well.
Yeah,
103 from Ben Joyce. I mean, I guess it's part of what we're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is obviously the marquee matchups, LSU versus Texas Saturday night. I cannot wait for that. But, I'm looking forward to seeing Tennessee on Friday night. Chase Burns, their talented Friday starter and right-hander, has been up to 99 this spring, has been very good so far. They've thrown a lot of responsibility on his shoulders. But the biggest thing for me is when you look at Tennessee's offense, going against Pete Hansen from Texas, a preseason Big 12 Pitcher of the Year, just that dynamic between a precision lefty versus that hard-hitting Tennessee lineup, that's just a fascinating matchup. And Tony Vitello continues to do a really nice job. I think that team is very good.
Yeah. Boy, and Tennessee fans have responded in a big way. They're averaging over 4,000 a game, and that just hasn't been the case at this point of the season for Tennessee, really ever.
Yeah,
so it's been fun.
No, it's awesome to see. I just wish their Twitter fans were a little bit more knowledgeable about baseball sometimes.
That's where we will leave it.
That's kind of where I'll stop.
All right, Kendall. Looking forward. I think we got it set up. We're going to visit on Tuesdays throughout the season. Really appreciate your time, and we'll look forward to talking to you on Tuesday. Thanks, bud.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, have a good weekend. Thank you.